Seek.com.au and seek.co.nz are great success stories. Rising from nowhere in 1997 to become the industry leader in the online employment and training market in Australia and New Zealand, Seek redefined the way that people looked for work. What's it like to work for such a successful company at the CIO level?
It's very nice, is the short answer. The company's growing very fast. There's a lot of variety. We are a very well-awarded workplace. We're the number 2 workplace in Asia, according to Hewitt. We've won Hewitt Awards as a workplace for the last 7 years in a row. So I like working there.
Seek was one of the first companies in Australia and New Zealand to build a successful business model on the internet. To what extent does that history inform your approach to technology at Seek?
A lot of people from outside, I think, look at Seek and see a technology company or an internet company, and generally that's actually a mistake. We're not a technology company. And I think you sort of get 3 or 4 different types of company. There's a technology company where technology is about expanding the footprint of the company itself, and a good example of that would probably be Google. There's other types of technology functions in companies which are about driving down the cost, and you see that in manufacturing and places like that. And there's other sorts of companies where technology really isn't a key part of the business in terms of driving the company forward, but technology has to really keep pace at the front foot with the company. So Seek is very much in that camp. And yes, while we're on the internet and technology is a very important aspect of the business, it's not the most important competitive differentiator. If you look at some of the other companies in the marketplace space, whether it's in real estate, car classifieds, dating, search, all those sorts of companies, really the brand is very important. The number of customers are very important. All of those things are quite important, and technology needs to keep pace with that. But if you spend all your time looking at technology, you'll probably lose out in the longer term.
How did you start your career in technology, and what qualifications did you gain?
By accident is the answer. So my own career started in the recruitment industry, which is probably why I'm at Seek. So I spent a fair bit of time in that industry. I was very lucky to be part of a company that believed in the internet right from the very beginning, and so I ended up in a role managing an internet division for a recruitment firm in a whole number of countries in the Asia region. After that I went to media company, News Limited, where I used that knowledge in the job board space and really probably picked up a lot of exposure to product development, IT, media strategy. From there I moved into the product director role at Seek, and so I was very much on the business side, owning the website and making the decisions around what goes onto the website, what priorities we focused on, understanding the user needs, and throughout that whole time obviously worked very closely with technology, not so much from the technical point of view, but from being able to communicate with technology people to get the best out of technology, and then from there sort of moved into the CIO role.
The role of a CIO at a technology company is often different from an equivalent position in a different industry sector. Would you characterise your role at Seek as more focused on product development or as an infrastructure and support role?
What's quite unique about the CIO role at Seek is you've got 2 or 3 different companies that you're the CIO of simultaneously, a web company and all the IT aspects that go with that, physical infrastructure and buildings and classrooms, networks. If you imagine what sort of demand 6,000 students have for IT services, you sort of get a sense very much infrastructure heavy, and a fair web component. And then obviously we've got 300 to 400 staff in the employment side and the equivalent number on the education side. So we've got an enterprise systems footprint of coming up to 1,000 staff, and that's quite a heavy thing as well. We're using SAP in that space, we're using Salesforce, and so you get this whole variety of enterprise systems, infrastructure systems, web systems, and so the variety is very, very big, and yeah, you almost run 3 or 4 different IT styles at the same time.
Do you think that the CIO role represents the peak technology role in corporate life?
If you look at the last 10 years of CIO roles, I think there was a technical focus. I don't actually think, and my own experience is probably evidence of that you need to be a technology expert to be a CIO. In fact, I think probably the more agnostic you are to technology, the better in the sense that the CIO role is about working with the company to identify how technology is used rather than looking at the technology and making judgments about the technology itself. So I think if you were to say what's the peak technology role, it's probably more in the CTO space or the architectural space, and that's where it's going. And I think that the trend of technology is more commoditization. If you look at the sort of younger generations, they're very tech savvy, and I think the workforce in 10, 20 years' time, everybody is going to be tech literate, and so the thing that makes a difference is actually understanding the business landscape and how that translates into technology, what user experience is like for employees as well as consumers. I think that's where it's really changing, and how to get the best out of technology is more a thinking and a business process rather than a technical process.
What do you think are suitable qualifications for the CIO role?
I've got a degree in linguistics, so I'm probably not a good person to talk about that. But I think it's actually changing. You know, you look at, if you look at CVs, and we see a lot of CVs, just by the nature of the industry we're in, I do think there's a bit of a change in the qualification set of that. And so business qualifications are becoming more important at the CIO level. You're starting to see a lot of MBA type stuff, certainly in America, which tends to lead these things, that's the case. And the IT technical degree is probably less of a lesser importance as a CIO. If you're pursuing the technical route, yes, you need to have a good grounding in that, and you probably need to keep pace with a whole bunch of technical certification and those sorts of things, project management, program management. You need to be across that sort of stuff. But I think in the CIO role, which is sort of changing to be more of an advisory role and a business role, it's going to be the business qualifications that ultimately make a difference, or even the ability to operate in the business landscape rather than the technical landscape. So I think that's a strong trend that's likely to continue. And for those technical people looking to get to the CIO role rather than a CTO or an architecture type function, my recommendation would be branch out and get more business related qualifications.
Not all technology professionals want to be leaders, but for those that do, what sort of skills and qualifications and experience should they work on to give themselves the greatest chance of success?
Probably 3 or 4 things. I think you must have people management, people leadership skills. I think some technology specialists struggle with that because there's a little bit of a conflict in that. If you're working with the computers a lot, you don't really get the opportunity to motivate people and work with people so much. And that's just a difficult thing in the lower levels of IT. And so often you get people who are probably quite good at it, but who never get the exposure, never get the experience earlier on in their career. And that actually makes it hard for them to sort of transition later in life. So getting people management experience and understanding what management is, the difference between that and leadership, how to motivate people in the technology space, which has its own challenges, how to work with stakeholders outside of IT. Those are very, very important skills. I think the second thing is sort of strategic and commercial skills. IT changes so fast, you've got to have this ability to sort of look through the future and understand what the important things are and what the distractions are. And in technology, there's an awful lot of distractions. And so the ability to filter out the noise, I think, is very important, and have a strategic mindset to be able to make the right recommendations for the business so that the business ends up in the right technology place rather than the wrong technology place. And there's many, many examples of ending up in the wrong technology space. So I think those 2 things are very important. I think the third of those is probably more commercial, financial skill set. So IT can get very, very expensive very, very quickly. A lot of people outside of IT struggle to understand where the cost drivers are, where the risks are, and so being able to communicate that in a way that other people can understand is very, very important. I think the last couple are technical skills, program management skills, delivery skills, and those tend to be a mix of communication and technology, and it's having a fair understanding of where the risks are in IT, and the broad principles about how to go about doing IT. I think you probably need to get some exposure to that somewhere along the line.
Where do you see your career heading from here?
Look, my personal career is in the online space, and so I've sort of worked in the sales part of it, and the strategy part of it, and the product part of it, and the IT part of it, and so I sort of see myself keeping in the online space and going further in that space, running an online business. That's where I'm heading. So I've got a strong passion from the online sector. I understand it very well, both from the customer side and from the delivery side. So that's my personal preference in the career. But certainly CIOs generally, there's quite a debate, I think, about where CIOs go, and there's almost a standing joke, which is CIO's career is over. I think that's less likely to be an issue as time progresses and as the IT skews more towards the business side, but also as IT becomes much, much more important to society. It's already very important to society, but that trend's not going away. So I think CIOs generally struggle to have a clear line into the CEO route or a general manager route, but I think that over time is going to change, and you're starting to see some really quite high-profile examples where that's not, that doesn't seem to be a limiting factor anymore. So I'm optimistic about that, but maybe I'll be on Seek, you never know.
How do you think your industry is going to look in 10 years' time?
The key thing for job hunting or any marketplace business is the idea that you don't miss out. And so people are always going to look for jobs, and they are always going to want to be in the place where there's the most opportunity so that they don't miss out. And so having that marketplace is really, really key, and I can't see any scenario where that marketplace world is going to disappear. I do think the idea that the marketplace is a website is perhaps a limited view of that. And so, yes, you can see with the distribution of technology, the consumerization of mobile, those sorts of things, that how you access the market is going to change, whether it's at the device level or whether it's at what sort of time you access it or the form that you're going to access it. The marketplace about how people look for jobs, how employers look for new talent, that marketplace is always going to exist. The marketplace that has the most opportunity or the most people in it and the most options for employers is going to be the marketplace where everyone wants to be, and so that's very important. Whether that's a technology thing, I don't think so. Technology will be important to that, but that marketplace will exist.
Carey Eaton, thanks for your time today.
My pleasure.